Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Robert Phoenix, and it's another day in the neighborhood, and things are getting very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. We're gonna climb down some rabbit holes today that are worth climbing down. All right. So, welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame, and we're going to get your coal miner hats on. All right, because we're descending. We're descending into some interesting places and spaces and areas, and I think you're going to like the bulk of the content for today's show because there is a massive momentum shift taking place right now, and it has everything to do with the election and more. And I'm going to try to sort of build out also what the biggest challenge that we face is and where we are right now in terms of this program, this Earth program, this beast system, this matrix that we're in, this time of the reset. And the reset is, in my estimation, an independent entity. Right? There is a time when the ages begin to flip on this planet. And you can, reference the Kali Yuga as an example of that. But these things are timed. It's no coincidence that Klaus Schwab and the European Union and the World Economic Forum and China and Davos and their partners in the so-called Fertile Crescent are all choosing this time to make the Great Reset take place. Yes, there is a how do I say this, convergence of technology which allows them to establish a technocratic rule across the planet that has not been able to take place because the technocrats have been around for a very long time. They've been around before IBM came up with punch cards. Ideologically, they were in existence. So they had to wait for the convergence of the technology to basically arrive so they can implement their systems-oriented model of the world. But there's something else here as well, and that has to do with a recycling of spirit and time. And we're really in that place right now. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to piggyback their reset as we exit one age and we move into another age, as we begin to transit out of the Kali Yuga and move into a more golden period or more golden phase of our experience, whatever that is, whatever that looks like, and however we begin to adapt and manifest with that. This is a big part of what's taking place and why it's taking place now, and why what's happening with the election in this country is vitally important, because it's the only thing standing in the way of that right now. It is the only thing standing in the way of that. That's it. That's it. Now, I'm going to do my best to lend my support to the electoral process, and even I'm going to lend my support to Donald Trump with an asterisk, because there are still things that really need to be addressed, and that has to do with COVID-19. I'm going to talk a bit about COVID-19 today, because it is the thing that they will use to push this agenda forward. We all know that. They're going to up the cases of COVID-19. They're going to up the stats. They're going to make sure that their faulty PCR test, right? Faulty PCR test is going to be sort of the industry standard, and people are going to get caught in the PCR false positive bardo. This is what happens. And what's really interesting is, have you ever noticed that only Republicans test positive for, and I'm not trying to beat the Republican versus the Democrat kind of drum, but only the Republicans seem to test positive for COVID-19. What's up with that? What's up with that? And you're going to see these cases of COVID-19 begin to theoretically skyrocket. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. There's also some really strange shit. We're going to get into the voter anomalies, but really we're at a major why. We're there. This is a massive tipping point, and it's also quite interesting to kind of wrap our heads around the fact that so many people are waking up. I'm getting emails and I'm getting information that these people who have been kind of, half asleep, half awake, probably 70% asleep and 30% awake, are now starting to wake up. And they're coming back to family members and saying, wow, you might have been right. You might have been right. What else do you know? Right? I mean, it's like this is starting to happen. Now, being the Scorpio rising, late degree Virgo sun that I am, there's always the potential of moving people just into a new, a new sort of pen, right? I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to give you a little more space here. It's going to feel like a little more freedom. And that happens. So, it bears witnessing. But at the same time, we cannot deny the fact that this is taking place, that people are really waking up in record numbers. This is actually a very good thing. I don't care how you spin it. I don't care if we're going to take a risk and kind of move them into another free range environment, but with fences, right? I think it's really good and it's essential. And it gets to this idea that there's a tipping point. Rupert Sheldrake talked about morphogenetic fields, of course, with the 100th monkey. And that was always kind of a model for this change model. And that once it hit the story of the 100th monkey, you guys know this, right? This is basic stuff. 100th monkey, Rupert Sheldrake, scientist, he's down in this island chain and he's watching these monkeys. This one monkey starts to take these coconuts, and apparently the coconut has a fungus growing on it. So in order to clean the coconut, it goes down to the ocean and washes the coconut off because there's salt water, which is going to sanitize the coconut. So he notices this, right? And more monkeys begin to do this. And then eventually, without having any connection with that original group of monkeys, all the monkeys in this island chain start washing their coconuts. Anyway, my 14-year-old just popped in there. So anyway, this is the idea of the 100th monkey. Like when they got to the 100th monkey, the morphogenetic field flipped and they all got it, right? That there was a collective kind of wave that went through their little group down there. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening. We're getting close to that 100th monkey. We're getting close to that tipping point. And when that happens, there will be different things that will occur in the collective as a result of that. And so maybe I'll talk a little bit more of that. But before I do, I want to acknowledge people that are here and welcome to the show. We got Ian. What's going on, Ian? 10 Dragon. Z. What's going on, Z? Joe Dimitri. Anna E. DJ MC, the lovely and talented Joan S. There's my man, Thor by the door. What's happening, Steve? Always good to have you. Beth Berry, Craig Corporal. We got double B and double C. FUP77, Tea Time with Ticia. Ticia, I'll reach out to you today. I promise it's happening. There's Tina Sherman. There's Lils. There's JMP Love. What's going on, Jacqueline? Mary Black. Oh my God, I'm blown away. This is really big stuff. We're entering big stuff territory. All right, just keep that in mind. WC Ray from Charlotte. What's happening? Nancy Dickerson. Kevin Stick Evers. What's going on, brother? Shuro Loshiavo. Only here for a short while, working from home. All right. I promise you'll get the best of the show. Just for you. No, I'm just kidding. But you'll get something good. Danica Rose, what's happening? Natasha Lloyd. Hello, Natasha. There she is, Joe Mama. Charles Mazek. Good morning, Phoenix. Tucker was great last night. He was awesome. Lisa Marie, what's going on? Lisa Double V, Jennifer Fitzgerald, Laura D. There's my cuz. What's going on, Sandra? Lori Seiler. Hello, Lori. Hello, hello. Uncle Glenn, what's going on, brother? Don Hart, nice to see you, Don. Miranda Couch is here. Nicholas Grimm, Tamara Garth. Hi, Tamara. Ani Brito, there she is, the wench with the wrench. Coach K in the house. What's going on, Coach K? Carolina. Let's see. Life certainly ain't dull these days. No. And then we got Carolina and then Carolina in the Pines. They follow astrology they use. Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. Who else do we have? Hey, Christine. How's it going, Christine? I am going to talk about voting today, but I'm going to talk about it in a way, hopefully, that expands the topic of voting. That there's something at a deeper level, at a systemic level, and everything you've said about voting, Christine, I want to validate. And the election system, I want to validate that. Okay, so I don't want you to feel like, you're not being heard, because clearly you've experienced it, I've experienced it, and I think this is going to be the end of voting as we know it. And that's a qualifier, as we know it. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. John G, what's happening? And who else do we have here? There's Kestrel. What's going on, Kestrel? Leon Luis. You can Skype me later today, Leon. I'll be around. I'll absolutely around. Okay, who else do we have? A lot of people today. Fantastic. Sandy M. I just drove to southeastern Florida from southeastern Pennsylvania and back completely maskless. Ooh, way to go. Keep those masks off. You know what that does? It gives you herd immunity. That means that makes you immune from being a part of the rest of the herd. It's a whole different spin on herd immunity. You heard it here first. Okay, let's see. Anybody else? They're doing this to bring in blockchain into voting process into government IT systems. I think that's probably true. That's probably true. And blockchain is not a panacea for everything, but it is clearly a step forward. This is going to be the last major election voting system as we know it. It will not be the same 4 years from now. It may not even be the same 2 years from now. No matter what happens, because if the so-called left win, they will use everything in their power to change the structure of the voting system so that it will accommodate basically a one-party system, which is what happened in a place like Venezuela, where Hugo Chavez won. And when Hugo Chavez won, people thought, well, we'll vote him out. Next time, we'll put up with him, we'll vote him out next time. Well, Hugo Chavez changed the Supreme Court of Venezuela. He packed the court, and he never left until he got sick and he died. And, I'm not a huge fan of Hugo Chavez. I didn't live in Venezuela, but what happened afterwards with Maduro and is not great. It's not great. And I'm, straight. I don't want to get into an ideological debate against communism versus capitalism. That's not what today's show's about. We're going to talk about some things that are very, very specific to what's happening. Okay, and some very unusual stuff. All right, so I'm going to do the invocation here, and I'm just going to get out of the way. I like when you guys just get to look at the tree while I talk on this. All right, so here we go. All right, here we go. Dear blessed and holy Father, Mother God of the great central sun, within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda Emmanuel, we ask that only the highest and best truth and information and wisdom come through this channel at this time. And as a result, we bless and embrace the qualities of humor, of patience, of flexibility, of endurance, of commitment, of faith, of strength, courage, fortitude, plenitude, abundance, empathy, compassion, and above all, love. We ask this in the name and the purpose of serving the one great creative source in and all and through all things. And we ask that any karmic residue be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed from this stream. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. All right. So I want to take you to an image that is, again, this goes back to the press conference at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia. This is the most bizarre thing, okay? But there's something really interesting about this press conference that people aren't quite talking about and or are addressing. I'm going to show you. This is a trip. All right, here we go. Get back here. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. What is going on here? What is going on? The only person without a mask besides Rudy Giuliani is this guy right here. That is Bernard Kerik. And Bernard Kerik was the chief of police in New York City during 9/11. So he wound up, after 9/11 happened, he wound up getting a really cush post 9/11 security job in the Middle East. Like, I think he got hired by a private security company, and they moved him out of New York City because Bernard Kerik knows what happened on 9/11. And then he wound up actually, I think, going to prison for a brief period of time. And then he's out, and now he's back in circulation. So what's interesting here is that he's the only one that's wearing a mask. Now, that's just one anomaly. Why? Why is he not wearing a mask? Well, because there's two of them, right? There's two of them. And what did we see with 9/11? We saw the Twin Towers. And I'm not saying they're actual twins, but they're the only people that aren't wearing masks. I think it's noteworthy. I think it's a noteworthy kind of notice. Okay. Now, here's where it gets very interesting. Besides that, that's just kind of the lead. Look at the signs here. What are they saying? What are they saying? They're saying Trump 2020. There's only one sign that says Trump Pence. What is that about? Now, you know that none of this is by accident or happenstance. I don't think they just ran out of Trump 2020 signs and said, oh, hey, we got an extra Trump Pence sign here. Why don't we use that? No, this is specific. This is very, very specific. Everything is Trump 2020 and only one square for Pence. One. Well, why is that? Now, there was something that I wanted to report on last week. I think it was actually it was a week before the election. It'd be 2 weeks ago. God, this thing is ripping. There was a very strange story that I could not confirm, which is one of the reasons why I didn't bring it up, was that Mike Pence was arrested. That Mike Pence was arrested in, I believe, Minnesota. And I couldn't confirm it, but it was very strange. And it didn't come through like the Q world. It wasn't like a Q thing. At least it wasn't coming up as a drop. But there was this interesting story that he was arrested. And I thought, well, who would be arresting Mike Pence? And especially on the literal, not quite the eve of the election, but the metaphoric eve of the election. I'm like, what would the left be doing this? Would this be part of their putsch? And I don't think so. I don't think it was the left. I think Pence was actually placed under arrest, and I think that that Trump might have had something to do with it. And I'll tell you why. Because he, in mid-flight on, I think it was Air Force Two, Pence's security clearance got changed. His security clearance. So his security clearance, like there's Air Force One and Air Force Two, and Pence and Trump can never be on the same plane together. Hence Air Force One and Air Force Two. So that was his security clearance, AF2. Pence's security clearance got changed to SAM 239. What is that about? SAM 239 is a civilian code. Now, what's quite interesting is that Trump held a press conference. Now, I don't think they can actually physically remove Pence at this point, but his standing has changed. You see this? So his standing has changed. So when Trump was talking about that they have to count every legal ballot, Pence chimed in and roughly said the same thing, but he said every ballot. And he actually had to go back and retract that or clarify that, which is interesting because that's the language of the Democrats or Kamala Harris, that every vote must be counted. These people, they think they're smart. They think they're tricky. They think, okay, we're gonna use word language and it's gonna sound good. Yes, every vote must be counted. This is America, god damn it. Every vote must be counted. She's right. Well, really, what she's saying is that whether it's legal or not, it's got to be counted because it's a vote. That's what she's saying. If you listen to that, and Pence was saying the same thing. Guess what? Pence corrected himself. Now, Mike Pence, if you've ever watched him, is very studied. Very studied. He's very. Pence doesn't say or do things that are obviously outside the box. That is not Mike Pence. So if he was going to say something along those lines, he would probably be very specific in the use of his language. And he was not. And especially, right, you sit down and you have a rally or you have a huddle. You call a play. It's like, okay, here we go. We're all going to be on the same page, and this is the language we're using. Either Pence wasn't at that meeting or he decided to change the language. Either way, it is indicative of something. So there's a major sea change going on here. And I think they're rendering Pence inert. There are, if you count these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it goes down to 6 rows. So that's 42. This sign makes 43. And the 43rd president was George W. Bush. Again, just from a symbolic, numerical perspective, he was 43. And where are we? We're in the territory where 43 theoretically got elected. Now, I'm not sure what the significance of 243 is, but we can see the 43 right here, right? We can see it there. And then we have 2. And what's interesting about the 2 is that it stands out. Like this is the second time we've encountered this situation that resembles 43. And who was the president on watch of 9/11? 43. 43. Now, I'm not saying that Trump would do this, but I've always thought in the back of my mind, if this thing was going to go, if it looked like everything was turning against Trump and there was really no way out, then my strategy would be to declass everything. I mean, everything. Just declass it all. 9/11, JFK, aliens, UFOs, Watergate, Fast and Furious, declass it all. just like boom, let it out. Like one massive fucking WikiLeaks dump. It's like, okay, here you go. Here, sort this out. That's what I would do. I think that there is a hint of that here. This is why Bernard Kerik is here, because if you didn't know that this was Bernard Kerik, then what would happen? Right? If he was wearing a mask, you wouldn't be able to make the connection unless you knew who he was. And you know what else this reminds me of in a lot of ways behind him? It reminds me of The Usual Suspects, and it's just like, this reminds me of the lineup for The Usual Suspects in some ways. There's so much going on here in this photo. And do you know what else it reminds me of? Now, numerically, the squares don't match because of the layout. But it also reminds me of the question board in Jeopardy, which is 36. This is 42. But we just had Alex Trebek pass away at 80. And it reminds me of the Jeopardy board in some ways. Now, it's not a traditional chess board. There would be another position, right? There would be one more position and one more row. So this is interesting. We got 43, and then we have 2, right? 2 right here. Interesting shit. And then we have 43 in terms of the sign. And then we have the 2 characters that were involved in 9/11 right there. Right there. Bernie and Rudy. There's some interesting shit. So there's a lot going on here. As soon as they called this press conference, that's when the networks announced that Biden was the winner. Okay. The other thing, of course, is the fact that there's only one placard of Pence. That's it. Just one. And I think it's significant. He's being singled out. And his clearance was changed. Sam 239. That's his new clearance. He's no longer AF2. He is no longer AF2. It's a chemical hazard rating. I know. It's still a sign, right? There's 43. It's called Synchromysticism. We're in the realm of Synchromysticism where the simulation reveals itself to us. Pence has never looked human to me. No. Pence is weird, man. You do not want Mike Pence as your president. Now, here's the other thing. Speaking of Pence, Mike Pence is what's called a dominionist. We've talked about that before, that the dominionists believe that it is their lot in life to rule the planet in probably a post-raptured or pre-raptured state. And he calls himself a charismatic Catholic. That's what he calls himself. And Amy Coney Barrett is one of those people. What is the name of the software that they've been using to flip these votes? Dominion. Okay, so is there an interesting connection there? Is Pence involved in the Dominion software program? Well, Paul Pelosi is, apparently. And I think, who is it? No, Dick Bloom, Richard Bloom, who is Di-Fi's husband. He's definitely involved in the Dominion software, which was deployed in 28 of the states to flip the vote, which they call glitches now. Glitches get stitches. Remember that. So again, there's this weird kind of synchromistic thing that's happening with Pence, the Dominionists, Dominion software coming out of the Delian group. The whole thing is like getting very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And the other thing that's interesting is you can feel that there's a sea change. Like things are starting to turn, okay? They're starting to turn because the minute they went in on these lawsuits and the minute they started to understand that there were major glitches, not just glitches, but they were flipping votes. Guess what happened? Essentially, Arizona went gray. All these states now are going gray. And they're starting to return some votes to Trump. Oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? So now what are we doing? We're playing a little bit of a game. Well, we figured it out and it's not enough votes. Is that what the game is now? Yeah, we just had some glitches. We figured it out and you were right. And there's not enough votes. But, you know, thanks for pointing that out. We appreciate that. And that next election, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen, especially for our candidate. This is important because now they're starting to play the game. Oh, gee, we're getting caught with our pants down. I'm going to show you how the game is played. I'm going to show you how this thing worked. Okay. I'm going to give you two graphics here. This is probably one of the more important ones. So there was a strategy around flipping the votes. And the strategy, let me get back to the graphic so I can actually, so the strategy was that, it's kind of hard to see, so I apologize for that. But basically what they would do is they would take small counties. So this is a county called Rock. I believe it's in Pennsylvania. I could be wrong. So if I trip on this one, but it's a small, very small county. And essentially what they did is they literally flipped the vote tabulation in what's likely hundreds of small counties across the country. This is how and there were a number of ways that they figured out how to, turn this vote. And I said that Trump would have to win by a landslide in order for him to validate his election or the election, or at least the process on some level. He would have to win by a landslide. And I think if you flip the numbers, you really flip the numbers, he did win by a landslide. I don't think it was even close. I think it was probably somewhere along the lines of probably 67-37 minimum, and possibly 75-25. I'm even willing to bet that he took California because they just stopped counting. Alaska hasn't even turned their votes in. I mean, the whole thing is just fucking ridiculous. And it's making us look like a third world country, inept, incompetent. Those Americans, they're a mess. Enough of this bullshit, okay? Enough of this demoralization bullshit. It's over. It's over. This is our time to take our integrity and our pride and our character back. This is the time to do that. And I have been very critical of this country. We've gone in and we've fucked with other elections. Hell, even as recently as 2 years ago or less than that, we went to Venezuela and we tried to kick Maduro out and install Juan Guaido. Look, as much as I don't like Maduro and I'm not a huge fan of communism and socialism. I'm also not a fan of crony capitalism. We didn't have any real right to do that. We've never really had a right to interfere in other countries' elections. And we've been doing it for a very long time. So the chickens have come home to roost a little bit here, okay? And now we're having to deal with this, karmic residue of how we've interfered in the elections of developing nations or these countries that have decided, well, theoretically, they want to have another system. So this is how we're looking to the rest of the world. That said, it's time to bring this thing home. It's time to bring it back. And when I was a kid, I went through a very big demoralization process. when Richard Nixon was impeached. That was a hard thing for me to witness as a kid, and it really soured me. It made me cynical. And I'm not going to get out there and buy a MAGA hat or anything like that. It's just not who I am. Period. But I am going all in on this because we got to stop this shit. And whether or not Trump will wind up being a fucking antichrist if he wins and basically turning people's life into a living hell or tyranny, I don't like the alternative. And if it is the pincer effect, I'll live with it. So it's time to get on board and just say, listen, we don't know where this is going, but we know where it's going with those guys. We know that Joe Biden is going to hire Eric fucking Schmidt to run his technology operation. Eric Schmidt, okay? The same Eric Schmidt who theoretically has been blackmailed by the Chinese for what? Or how did they do it? They did it with a toxin, a poison, which theoretically, again, this is theoretical now, theoretically that they have to give him the antidote every month. I think his girlfriend came out and said that. And Eric Schmidt has 2 daughters. One of them died. And apparently the Chinese delivered two antidotes versus 3. And Schmidt had to figure it out. Right? So he wants to put Eric Schmidt in charge. He wants to make Andrew Cuomo Attorney General. Andrew Cuomo, the guy who opened up the elder care facilities, which really became death camps. More deaths in the elder care facilities in New York State than almost any other place in the United States. He wants to make him Attorney General. He wants to make everybody masked up. Now, look, Trump might just bring out the army, Operation Warp Speed, and we may have to deal with this regardless. But I know who those people are. I know what their track record is. I know who they work for. And that's not the type of representation that I think I really want to embrace. I'm not sure you want to embrace it either. Now, I'll tell you what's really interesting about the Trump situation is that if you're paying attention now, Trump has dismissed Mark Esper, right? He's dismissed him. This is a big deal. And it's a good move. I never trusted that guy. I never trusted him. And when Trump wanted to send people out, he said, look, you got to go out there, go defend the streets. Esper said, no, not going to happen. And he was a member of the CFR. So you got a CFR guy basically being the Secretary of Defense. Doesn't really work. So he's gone. In fact, Trump said he's terminated. Now, Esper wanted to hand in his resignation paper. Trump didn't let him do it. He says, you're terminated. Thank you for your service. He said, terminated. He didn't say relieved of duties. He said, terminated. It's about fucking time. We're starting to see people now that, again, I don't want to invest in this political thing. We got bigger and better things to do on this planet. But right now, we're in the midst of a massive paradigm shift and sea change. So now he's got people around him like Tom Fitton and Sidney Powell. I mean, these are people that look, nobody's perfect, but at the very least, I can relate to these people. There was never anybody in the Obama administration, not once that I could relate to, not one person. There was never anybody in the Bush administration that I could relate to. Now, I could kind of relate to this Sidney Powell person. I could kind of relate to this Tom Fitton person. And I don't think Trump is done. He's not done. And if we manage to turn this thing around, and I feel like we manage to turn this thing around, you're going to start to see the swamp creatures inside of Trump's inner circle be removed. Christopher Wray will be next on the list. He'll be next on the list. And I've heard that Sidney Powell will run the FBI. This is a rumor, and I'd be really okay with that. I like this person. I like this person. And I've also heard that they're going to bring Flynn back. Now, if I was him, if I was Trump, I would put Flynn in charge of the CIA. I'd get rid of Gina Haspel. Done, gone, right? Because Flynn has military intelligence. Now, apparently, this is what was going on election night. That they were watching everything in real time. Everything in real time. Now, if you notice who Trump let me show you this guy Esper's replacement. He's got some very interesting qualifications. Check this out. Check this out. So you wonder why Esper's gone? I'll show you. Check this out. Look at this. The South China Morning Post. China-U.S. tension. Beijing worries that Esper's exit raises risk of military action and accidents. Appointment of Christopher Miller as acting U.S. Defense Secretary raises red flags, according to military observers. See ya. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Christopher Miller. Who is Christopher Miller? The Chinese are scared. They're concerned. Look, China has become the new proxy fall guy. Glenn and I were talking about this last night. Glenn Streeter. They're the new proxy fall guy. They're basically the wall. There are other entities behind China. Trust me. China's not running the global domination program on their own. All you have to do is look at Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab. And what is Klaus Schwab? Where does Klaus Schwab teach? In two countries, specifically, two countries, China and Israel. Klaus Schwab is the middleman between China and Israel in the WEF. Okay, just letting you know. Just letting you know. But China is now the big bully in the room. Okay, so who is Christopher Miller? A really good question. We're going to find out together. And I got a lot more today, a lot more. So hang in there. Well, there's a number of Christopher Millers, but the one that we're talking about is this guy right here. This is interesting how the Washington Post. There's a reason why he's been chosen. You know, I love how they frame this shit. I don't want to subscribe. Oh, God. I can cancel anytime. Try 1 month for $1. No. So what they're saying, I'm gonna summarize this. What they're saying is that he has a thin resume. Let me go back because I really wanted to read that. He has a thin resume, and he's perhaps not really suited for the job. So let's go to his Wikipedia page. All right. October 15th, Libra, right there. American Department of Defense official who serves as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Oh, interesting. A modern complex near Tyson's Corner in McLean, Virginia. The National Counterterrorism Center. So he is involved, or has been involved, in, guess what? Cybersecurity and cyber intelligence. So he came on board in March 2018, and he was a counterterrorism advisor to the U.S. NCS, where he worked through December 2019, and was involved in operations against ISIL, which means that he knows who they are, how they were funded, who's behind them. He became Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Combating Terrorism. So Trump moved him basically right behind Esper. And now he is in the driver's seat. So Christopher Miller is the guy that essentially was probably running that event that was taking place on election night, where they were witnessing everything in real time. So we've gone from somebody who Mark Esper is more of a conventional, third generation, maybe fourth generation warfare type person. Christopher Miller is a fifth generation warfare person. So this is a really interesting development. And it gives Trump somebody who, number one, will listen to him because it's his appointee, really his appointee. And number two, has been working on the aggregation of stats, data, and running programs that are catching what happened in real time. So essentially what they did is they took the contractor who was in charge of running that operation and just put him in charge of everything. Now, I don't know if he'll be the acting Secretary of Defense moving forward. We got a long ways to go with this thing. But there's a reason it's him and not somebody else. So this is important, very important. And getting rid of Esper is huge, huge, very important. And if we're going to be engaged in a conflict with the rest of the world to stop this fucking global Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, fourth industrial revolution reset, you're going to need somebody like Christopher Miller who understands, cybersecurity and all the things that go along with it, because the type of warfare that we're headed into has a lot to do with that, not just ground warfare or the acquisition of resources, right? So, because we're in a battle, this is it. I mean, we are staring everything that we ever thought would happen and flipping this thing into a complete open air prison camp with this agenda of the New World Order. It's here. It is here. We're there right now. This is what's going on. It's not next year. It is right now. And you have to understand, to some degree, the forces at work here. And you could say, well, they're all working together. Okay. Well, what if they are all working together? Well, then what are you going to do about that? You have to kind of re-rack around that, which I think you have to have a little space for that. But at some point, you have to say, look, I'm going to go in over here, and I'm going to take my chances over here because this other thing doesn't look that great. And you can reserve the right to continue to look at this evolving set of circumstances with a clear perspective, which I always recommend. But at some point, people have to get off the fence and you're gonna have to join in on this thing, or else they're gonna flip this planet and everything is gonna look like fucking Melbourne. I'm telling you right now. And that's not a world you want to live in, and that's not a world you want your kids to live in. Now, that said, at some point, Trump is going to need to rescind the national state of a medical emergency. He's going to have to rescind that because he put that in place, which has allowed the states to run their own fucking programs. And now they're going to ramp everything up again. What's going to happen is that as we move forward to try to decouple from this complete and utter sham of reality theft, that they're going to ramp up the COVID cases. They're going to ramp it up, and they're going to basically put the pressure on Trump to step down because he's not addressing. This is their last card that they can play. The last card they can play is the COVID card. Okay, the absolute last card, because then they could go in and remove him because he's a national security threat. Yada 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 yada. We're getting ready to reach a nexus point, a major nexus point. So keep your eyes on that. And, hold some space, because we can't let these people, we cannot let them determine our health and well-being. We cannot let the Tony Fauci's of the world. We cannot let the Bill Gateses of the world. We can't let the Paul Singers of the world. We can't let these people dictate the terms and conditions of our reality. It is over. It is over. And I'm just a guy standing by a tree. Okay, that's who I am. I'm a guy standing by a tree, and I'm telling you, it's over. I'm calling it right now. It's over, and the sooner we all get to it's over, the better it will be for us, because it will give us resolve. It is over, and everything that you do from that point forward will be aligned with that position. Okay, it's over. Have some resolve here. It is over. We will not allow this to occur in the name of us and our children and the rest of the planet. It is over. And if there's anybody that's an ally to that, even if it's a temporary ally or a transitional ally, they should be your ally as well. Okay? So have some resolve in your own life and say it's over, and live your life accordingly, because we cannot stand by and let our brothers and sisters around this planet, I don't care what color they are, is we're all going to be under the thumb. Okay, we're all going to be under the thumb. We can't allow that. We can't allow that. And I'm sick and tired of people being fucking pushed around in places like Australia and New Zealand and England and France and Italy and Spain. I'm sick and fucking tired of people in Africa being treated like absolute dirt and squalor and political pawns. Like, it's over. So show some resolve here. This is it. It's time to make a stand. And guess what? If somehow you aligned yourself with the fucking Antichrist, and you played into the Antichrist role, so what? Just live with it. All right? Just live with it, and then adapt, and then move and make a different change. We are living in a highly mutable time. True Node and Gemini. So it's time to be adaptable. But for now, just have some resolve, okay? We're in Scorpio. This is Scorpio month. Die to the world. Die to the old world. Embrace something new. Embrace something more open. Embrace something more egalitarian. So it's on the table. All right, let me show you what else is on the table. Let's go back to some of the evidence that we're dealing with here. So check this out. Look at the leads here. This is in Pennsylvania. This is what we call an ass kicking. 57-41. Now, not all the votes are in. Suspiciously low at this time. But look, polls, we're closed. We're not counting. Let's go over here. Michigan. I'm going to talk about Michigan. 54-44. That's about 10%, almost 10%. I hate these decimals, by the way. The decimals they're a scam. Total scam. Up. They're closed. It's a pretty good number of votes there, by the way. Isn't that right? Was that? That's 19%. My bad. North Carolina, a little tight. But guess what? Closed. Here we go. Georgia, a little less tight. Closed. Here we go. Michigan again. Same thing. Closed. Wisconsin, pretty close. They all closed at the same time. Same time. It's like, okay, let's stop the process and let's go into these small counties and start flipping. This is what was going on, and they were watching it all in real time. That's what was happening. I'm convinced of that. And getting rid of Esper and bringing Christopher Miller in, who was probably in charge of that system that night, running that. They got the goods. Now, here's the deal. They can't really make that public. because it is a gray area. Can they actually tell the American people that they were literally spying on the election process? Think about that for a minute. If they're using really powerful, advanced decrypt technology in order to do that, do they want people to know that that's what was going on at a security level? Perhaps not. Okay. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play this out. Now, they can let people know who are engaged in the voting fraud and the actual glitching. They can let them know that they have the goods, and they can figure out how to parse the data in a way that makes it very uncomfortable for them. Which is why you're starting to see, like Arizona, it's like they uncalled Arizona. They uncalled Arizona. Oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And guess what? Biden, who looked like he had enough electoral college votes, not anymore. Not anymore. Down it goes. It's going to get very interesting. Very, very, because if the left, so-called left, whoever these people are, whatever their allegiance is, the Legion of Doom. I was thinking about this. Like if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris become that thing, we'll be surrounded by essentially like a comic book version of the Legion of Evil or something like that. I mean, it's going to be bad. Like all the worst, cyber criminals and tyrants are all going to get together and be a part of that administration. If the Dick Cheney rumors are true and the Cuomo rumors are true and Eric Schmidt is true and Zeke Emanuel, it's like the worst nightmare. It's like all the evil geniuses in the world have gotten together, and they're all sitting in one of those long tables, and they've got the world map, global map up there on a screen, and I mean, this is what we're going to be dealing with. Okay, this is what we're going to be dealing with, and it's kind of interesting that Sean Connery passed away, and 007 James Bond, and the guy who always thwarted, he always thwarted the bad guys. Who always thwarted the Dr. Evils of the world. So now it's up to us. That's the message, right? It's up to us. We are all 007 now. Okay, there's a lot more to talk about here, obviously. But you can see now that how we're beginning to piece together the voter irregularities. Well, there's more to it than just that. And you guys have probably seen this or heard about this. If not, I will play it for you. Let's see here. You saw that. And where are we? Let me do this here. Give me 1 second. Okay, you got to see this. You probably have, but this shit always just blows my mind. So this is from Santa Cruz, California. Shout out to the banana slugs. Okay, this is from Santa Cruz, California, and let's just say these people were very creative in terms of how they wanted to rig this election, throw the election with as many means as possible. Okay, check this out. Watch this.
Okay, so I'm Gemma, as everybody on my group knows, and I was just shopping in a unknown hardware store, and I happened to run into the lovely, was it Alyssa?
Yeah, it's
Alyssa, and I happened to tell her my vote hasn't been counted. And what did you just tell me?
My dog voted in the 2020 election.
And how did you find this out?
I got an email that now won't open because the server is down, apparently. So now she has her microchip number as her social security. I went to the voting place, looked under her name and everything, told them her social security number. All of her vet records are gone now. And she had already voted.
And can you tell everybody a little bit about why your dog would be registered to vote? She is a service dog, correct?
She's registered service dog through the Santa Cruz County Police Department and Cabrillo.
And so now she's been labeled a human.
Yeah, yeah. And
so her dog,
because she's a student.
So her dog was, because her dog is a service dog and was listed as a student at Cabrillo College, correct?
Yeah.
Her dog was listed as a human, registered to vote. So you called them, right? Or you contacted them that your dog got a voter registration, and they said, what did they say?
They said that she had already voted.
So your 2.5-year-old Labrador mix had already voted.
Yeah.
Who'd she vote for?
I am not sure.
She better vote for Trump.
I am really not sure who she voted for, but yeah, it was listed as a mail-in. I had a little trouble finding her through the voter registration because I didn't know the birth date they gave her.
Oh my God. This is just...
So I had to look under social security number.
And how old did they have her listed as?
She was just 18.
So she was listed as 18. What's her actual age in dog years?
She's in dog years.
So 2.5, right?
She's
well, I don't mean dog years, but like if you took your dog to the vet and they asked you, how old's your dog? How old would they say?
She was born 2017.
Okay, so she's 2.5 to 3 years old. Yeah. They have her registered as an 18-year-old college student at Cabrillo who voted.
Maggie Magoo Vela.
Maggie Magoo Vela. Your dog voted.
Yeah.
So they registered your dog to vote.
Yeah. They voted too.
So that my vote hasn't even been counted, and your dog
hasn't been counted either.
And you're telling, okay, so my vote hasn't been counted, your vote hasn't been counted, but your dog was able to vote and it's registered.
Yeah, hers went through.
This is awesome. Okay, so if this is not fraud, Maggie Magoo Vela, your dog's name is Maggie Vela, and she voted for President of the United States for the 2020 election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Okay, well, I think that says enough. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for your time. All right.
Oh, my God. What do you think of that? What do you think of that? All dogs matter. It's interesting. I mean, just the juxtaposition alone, that the two humans didn't have their votes counted, but the dogs vote. But the dogs -vote counted instead, right? We're dog apostrophe, dog apostrophe s. The dogs vote counted, but theirs did not count it, which means that they were reduced to the level of being a dog, and then they elevated the dog to human status. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Not the first 3-year-old on a leash that's been taken advantage of. Sean Connery died. Oh, look at this. Nice math there, Jan. Sean Connery died 10/31/20. Comes out to 007. You're all 007 now. My dog would have voted for snacks. Oh, that's a good one. Nice one. Only black lives matter. You guys are on fire. I love it. I love it. I think it's interesting that a Santa Cruz College student appears to be voting red. Oh, isn't that? That's a whole other topic of conversation. I think Trump flipped California. I think he flipped California. I think they shut California the fuck down really quickly. Really, really quickly. I think he flipped California. I think they're terrified. They're terrified of that. Absolutely. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. You had two people in Santa Cruz County who looked like they probably voted for the guy that's not Joe Biden. All dogs are now Pokemon. Your dog would bite someone trying to kill it too. Let's see. My Molly would have gone. Pfft. All the early mail ballots were designed to be fraudulent. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Jan has a really interesting piece here. I think California was red all these years. Maybe, maybe, maybe. So I'm from California, and I can attest that the Bay Area is about as liberal as it gets. Very liberal place. East Bay, Oakland, Berkeley, Marin County, San Francisco. These are all liberal strongholds. And as the tech people moved in, it became even more liberal. The South Bay, when I first moved to San Jose, California, when I was 8 years old, it was a farm town, and probably would have been a much more conservative area had it evolved along the lines of like Lodi or whatever. But you go to Southern California, and you run into pockets of conservatism, like Orange County, very conservative, but the rest, most of LA County, a lot of Hollywood, very, very liberal. San Diego for a long time was a conservative stronghold because of the military, but that changed over the years. And a lot of it had to do with my immigration and how the Democratic Party was incentivizing and essentially, how do I say this? I hate to use the word farming the non-native vote. Okay, that's what they were doing, but that's changed. And what's happened is that we've seen a tectonic shift in the Latin American community, and they're moving more towards a conservative perspective. Like I think Trump's numbers theoretically went way up in the Latino community, the Hispanic community. I think they went way up, and that would have changed the demographic considerably in California. You get outside of the Bay Area, and you're dealing with areas that aren't all that populated in some ways. Although when you get to Sacramento, it's a bit different. And I think Sacramento was for a long time perhaps a bit more conservative because it is more rural, but I think that changed. So was California always red? I'll say this. I think it's a lot closer, Jan, than it just being a blue state for all these years. That's my kind of slightly informed opinion from living there. I'm just trying to deal with the demographics. Although I think that's changed a lot, and it changed a lot just in this last year because I think people are tired of the bullshit. They're tired of too much government and the overreach. And I was thinking about Al Gore, and because I had a lot of interesting comments from the Sunday night show in Al Gore, and it occurred to me that Gavin Newsom's name has another meaning. It's spelled Newsom, right? But it's also Newsom, like as a noose, as in hanging. So again, this Al Gore symbolism, kind of emerges through it. Saying, oh, that's interesting. So that's a very interesting, sort of, kind of synchromystic kind of detail in this whole thing. Oh yeah, Newsom. Yeah, I think Newsom is born. Is he born October 15th too? Let me just see here. I think that's his birthday because I kept looking. It's Newsom, OM, October 10th. He's born October 10th, another Libra. And he is a Jesuit. Imagine that. Just like Jerry Brown, they went to the same college. They're both Jesuits. All right. So I want to talk about Michigan. And I want to talk about essentially King Lear's daughters who are running the state of Michigan. The unholy trinity. Let me show you this. Let me find this thing. I just had it up here. I gotta make sure I get it. Yeah, here it is, right here. Okay. So we talked about, everybody knows about Gretchen Whitler. We talked about Jocelyn Benson on Friday's show with the Crimmies and how she is essentially sculpted, groomed, placed into position of power as the AG of Michigan. Right now we have, Secretary said, now with the AG of Michigan. This is Dana Nessel. So in Michigan, you have the Secretary of State, you have the governor, and you have the Attorney General, and they're all women. They're all women. Now, I have no problem with women in politics or women serving. Nice little purple coat there, Dana. But it seems as though all three of them have a very similar agenda. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel sent a cease and desist letter to Big League Politics. By the way, that's Tucker Carlson's website, about their exclusive content hashtag Detroit leaks. It's about to rain here. That outlined poll worker training wherein workers were bragging about committing voter fraud in a variety of different ways. So there are people on camera in Wayne County that are basically saying, I worked there, I burned the ballots, fuck him, fuck Donald Trump, right? This is what happened. The intrepid reporter who broke the story, Shane Trejo, was also one who was a witness for the voter fraud in Detroit. Trejo says he considers this witness intimidation and is fearful it will be used as a pretext for some criminal actions. It's going to rain. It is going to start to come down here. Let me get out of the flight path here. It'll be with the rain. It's going to happen. You know these things. You can just feel the temperature begin to change. Hang out here for a little bit. Going into Club Hucklebuck here. Give me a minute. I'm going to set this thing up. There we go. There's some Gemini mutability in action. Right? I think that will do for now. Anyway, she wants to shut it down. She wants to shut it down. It's like, you've got to stop this. You have to stop this. These are pernicious lies. Wow, it is really going to come down. The weather has gotten intense. There's a tempest. I just started talking about King Lear's daughters. Look at this. Storm. The storm is coming. Well, let me turn this around. Check it out. Look at that. It's the winds of change, people. It's the winds of change. There it is. It's all around us. Be right back. Hold on. It is going to be pouring here in about 2 minutes. I'll show you when that happens. I'll stick around long enough for that. There we go. All right. Anyway, let's get back to this. Multiple witnesses have approached the Gateway Pundit, confirmed that the predictions from hashtag Detroit leaks were accurate, and that the counting of ballots from Wayne County / Detroit at the TCF Center, aka Cobo Hall, was by poll workers who refused challenges from poll challengers use COVID as an excuse to deny access to review the process, tabulate, challenge legal ballots, and fulfill this voter fraud prophecy. It's all coming out. Whether or not you believe in that process, it is all coming out. It is all happening right now. So have some faith, okay? Have some faith, have some resolve, and just hold the line, okay? Hold the line. It's incumbent. And you may not be able to go out there and subdue the forces of evil by force, but you can resist. You can resist, and you can resist internally. You can do it, okay? Just have some resolve, and resolve to not participate in their great global resets. Draw the line and start telling people about this. This is what's up. This is what they have in store for us, and they will use this virus as a way to make everybody bend to their will. And they're going to do it through fear, through intimidation, through coercion, through collective pressure. So this is it. You're on the line. Hold your own line, okay? Hold your own line. And at the end of the day, and I know it's difficult. I know it's really, really difficult because we've been put through a lot. Do your best to maintain a positive attitude. And I know it sounds really generic, but it helps, okay? It really helps. And do things that are going to be uplifting for you, whether it's art or helping another person, and I do stupid shit sometimes, like just to, kind of feel like I'm doing something like mildly interesting. My neighbor, he's a cool guy. He brought over a wild boar. So, I had some of it in the freezer. So yesterday I had these two big, kind of haunch areas of the boar, and I brined it with some apple cider vinegar and a few other things and softened it up. And so I smoked one of them, and the other I put in my crock pot, and I got a little pulled pork thing. I mean, just do stuff like that. I mean, for me, it's not a huge deal, but it's it's interesting. It's like, what do you do with a wild boar? How do you prepare it? And I know it sounds trivial, but these are the things that keep you alive. These are the things that keep you interested in life. These are the things that keep things moving and flowing. Stay involved. Just stay in the game. That's all you got to do. Have some resolve and stay in the game. And things are gonna work out. I swear to God, they will. It may not be next week or next month. It may not even be next year, because we're in a big process, right? We are staring down the aggregation, the finish line of the fucking control system. It's all here. So you may as well strap it on and get ready, but start with resolve. That's really important. Very important. And you don't have to be hateful, and you don't have to be destructive. It just starts with resolve. Just try that. Try that. And every day your resolve gets stronger and stronger and stronger, until, guess what? You forge a will, and that will help you all the way through this entire process. We're always tested along the way. This is part of our experience. But once you have some resolve, things will get better and better and better. And you can work this out in small ways. If you have a habituation, or you have something that you don't like to do, you can resolve to try to do your best to work on that. And it's a good thing. It's a good practice. Okay. I'm out of here. I've been crying so much. Let's see. What James? I've been crying so much water in my chart. You're a very emotional person, in a good way. And you're soulful. Let's see. Also buy massive amounts of books. I agree with that. I've been buying some books. I've been buying books lately. Absolutely. What else? You're welcome. You're welcome, Michael. Wild boar burger. Ooh. Hey, Ralph, that's on the next one. That's on the next one. That's when I get my meat grinder. Let's see. All right, I'm out of here for today. All right, for today. I'll be back tomorrow. I think it's going to get pretty wet here. So I had a little rain come on me while I was out there. You see, that's part of the thing too. It's part of the thing. Like, no, you got to notice. You have to be aware. And I've lived here long enough so that when I know that there's a drastic change in the temperature like that, things are about to get wild. So stay aware, stay awake, look around you. You know, read the signs, be in the moment, make adjustments. You know, get out of the rain, go find some shelter, whatever it is. All right. I'll be back tomorrow. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You are you. And you're all loved. All right. Have a good one.